the time being. So if you do have any questions or anything, as there's only a few of us, feel free to just interject, let me know just straight away, and we can talk about anything you like. The main focus of today's session is about data accuracy and quality, and we're going to run through some of the Power BI dashboards, most of the ones that the ones that I expect you to be interacting with most of the time. We're not going to run through every tab, so it's kind of more of a focused to say these are things you're going to need to look at, and hopefully give you a little bit more insight into where is a good place to look for things you need and where you need to go. Okay, let me just start sharing. You also notice that most of the time we're going to be filtered for Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is mostly because they don't have usernames, auditor names attached to their data, so it just makes it a little bit GDPR friendly for everybody. So what we're going to do first of all is look at the e-learning summary. The e-learning summary is kind of the first place we need to look, because unless the auditors have passed e-learning, then we won't be able to do audits. So this is like the first port of call, really, to see where we are with audits, etc. The summary is the quick overview page to see who's not started, who has completed, and what kind of courses everyone is enrolled in. If you need to find out more detail, the e-learning detail tab is the place to go. On the e-learning detail tab, currently Bosnia has only got refresher courses, but if you have continuous and etc., it will show up with all the different sections that are completed and what the status they're at. You can find out more detail by clicking on the training tab, and that brings up this, which is a lot more succinct version of everything that's in the previous tabs, but it's user level and course level. What we'd like you to, obviously we want everyone to be passed, but we'd like you to keep an eye on test attempts. Ideally, people should be passing the e-learning in under 5 attempts. So anything more, we'd probably like you to raise that there could be an issue with the auditor, or just to check that they are okay with the e-learning. The e-learning isn't rocket science, it's pretty straightforward. So, we'd expect like a pass in under 5 attempts. Otherwise, they could just be spamming. And if you see 10 attempts, 15 attempts, there's either going to be a problem or they haven't done the e-learning correctly. So we'd like you to investigate those instances. Once everyone has passed all the e-learning, the next where we want to look at is the coverage summary. Now, this, for me at the moment, I've got it filtered on the US. For most of you might have only one country to filter under, but this is a good place to show you how to do multi-select. You can, if we do it with quarters, if you use the control bar on your keyboard, you can multi-select quarters, so you can see where you can just multi-select stuff. Normally you can only select single quarters, but using control on your keyboard and clicking will let you multi-select. Also, you can use the eraser in the top right of each of the filters to remove any filters that you have currently. Yeah, this is kind of a top line detail. Everything is laid out in a simpler way as possible. It should kind of make sense, but any questions, let me know. Next, we're going to look into the coverage detail, which is going to be this is kind of the top line, whereas the coverage detail, you'll be able to look at store level visits. So you can see where merchandisers are in terms of which stores they have visited and which stores they haven't been able to visit. This will all be the coverage detail. You can expand this using, there's a focus mode on every chart and table. If you click on the focus mode, it just focuses solely on that chart. in this instance, you can see that everything is expanded, so you can see the merchandiser, CRM, store name, etc. But if you wanted to roll this up, you can collapse everything. This is probably going to be the view that you're going to start with when you come to the page. So it will look similar to this. But if you click on the merchandiser names, if you right click and expand, you can expand all, and it will should take you to the view we just had. Obviously, if you're trying to talk to specific auditors and say these are calls you haven't completed, this is where you want to be looking and pulling out that data and say, I need you to make sure that you complete these calls. And you can also use, in a similar vein, you can drill down on a specific merchandiser. If we collapse all again, you can, if you press this button to turn on drill down, it will drill into just one merchandiser, and then you should be able to expand all. So if you know that one person you need to look at, you can filter by just that person using the chart only. Yeah, just simple things that will probably be really helpful for you guys going forward. And I've managed to break it. If you get to this point and you're like, I can't get off one merchandiser, you can use the reset filters and slices button. This is going to take me off of Bosnia and give everyone, but you'll get a quick view of this is what it should look like. And you'll be filtered for your team specifically. If we quickly go to QC summary here. So once the audits have been complete, the QC team, our QC team in India, take a selection of calls from the pool of calls that they have for your country, and they basically check every single question against they check all the questions and then give you what the accuracy for each section is, and for each call. So here you can see this is currently filtered for the US. Their target is 95, but the majority of countries' target is 90%. And it just gives you can see quickly and say, okay, we need to look at availability, competitor shelves, and strike zone, because they're currently our lowest points. So we need to look at accuracy in those areas. And when you're auditing individual auditors or using the QC, some of the other QC tabs, you know that you can look in those areas to see. That will probably be your main focus. Connor said the other day that when he does audits and he checks them, he will normally check a large percentage of them for everything. But if he's doing quick ones, he will go and check and go, okay, I need to look at availability for this country. I need to look at, and it just gives you a little bit more of a direction when you're looking at your own QC process. This is great, but you can look at even more detail in the QC detail tab. And within here, you will be able to filter on specific users and specific calls. You could use CRM ID or call ID if you have them available. It's as simple as copy and paste and sticking it in. Then you will, again, this section here, you can collapse everything. So you can see where each merchandiser is at for each section that is KPI'd. But you can also expand all of this and then drill into the calls. Once you have it filtered by a year and a quarter, you should only see one call per CRM ID. And then if you want to look into said call, you should be able to right click on it and drill through, which this is going to take you to a new page. And the new page here will give you all the detail about what the differences QC have noticed. So these red ones have been, QC have had to change these answers to be correct. They might not have had to change them a lot, so they wouldn't be they wouldn't tick for against your KPI, but they may do. And this way you can see, okay, they had to change this from 120 to 119 number of facings, and it just gives you that little bit more detail, and you've got the pictures to the side so you can check or confirm and then take this to the auditor and say, here's an error, we've noticed this. If there, you can see here that the number of facings, competitor facings, there's quite a large gap. You go, okay, let's see how they've counted differently, or if they've missed a competitor, and then raise that with the auditor going forward. The next place we'll look at is the audit correction report. This shows you where corrections have been made to audits. And it gives you kind of, I think this is, yeah, so you can see how much the percentage change in these. Ideally, we don't want to have low percentages here. We want to have everything in like the 90s. And you can export this data to Excel and play with it how you need. If you aren't aware of how to do this, you can click on the three dots in the top right hand corner of the tables and click export data. This will give you the options with the current layout, summarized data. You probably won't have access to the underlying data, but it generally summarizes to this table anyway. Once you do it with the current layout, it should just give you export it to Excel, and let me open it so you can see it should be in the same format as this anyway. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and this you kind of do a little bit more detail about the changes that have been made by our QC team. And where those changes have been made, the majority of them. So you can see that, and you can filter this and highlight it so that you can make your team aware of sections that we need to look at per auditor level. So you know that they looked at availability, although we were looking at US at the time, but availability needs to be addressed, and other ones, okay, this specific user, the Red Bull shelf count is particularly low. We can just like highlight those so that we know that later on we need to come and address those. Let me get that. What we're gonna, oh, sorry, have you got any questions at all? Or are we okay? Okay. What we're going to look at next is the QC no match and the QC mismatch. This is still within, some we say the QC bubble of things that where these have been checked, the call's been checked, and these are basically the mismatch report is saying that numbers have changed from where it's been inputted on Rex, which is the QC Rex numeric response. This is the QC response, so the number that QC have changed it to, and then the difference is highlighted. So if this is just the kind of tabular version of what we've seen in previous pages, but this gives you every single change that they've made to say there are less facings, there are less this, and it's quite verbose. Again, this kind of can help your team address specific questions about if you're seeing a large volume of these, and again you can export this to Excel. And the QC no match report is where, in the same vein as the previous, it's where there's been no match at all. So instead of it changing a value from lower to higher, vice versa, it's saying that they've either added something entirely or removed it entirely, the QC team. So in these instances, does it have brand messaging? They've had to remove the response, probably because it isn't valid, because there's something else awry with the questionnaire, or there's a price showing and there is no longer a price because that actually wasn't available at the main placement. Every country is slightly different in terms of what to expect, and if main placement is the rules based on those. So yeah, you should know slightly better about what you need to look at in these instances, but it should kind of point you in a direction. Also from here, if you see that there's one call that's got a few errors, you can copy the value and then take that back to the QC detail page, put it in the audit call ID or the CRM ID, filter for that store, go and drill into it, and then you can kind of, and you can do the same thing through the audit check as well, I believe. And the last thing we're going to look at is the out of stock not listed error report. These are where not listed with a price, this top table, is where a country has put that a SKU is not listed. Sorry, an auditor has put where a SKU is not listed, but added that there is a price. By adding the price, they're showing that there is a label on the shelf, which means the SKU is listed. So this is it's highlighting reporting errors in the field. So this is where it's not listed with a price, and this is where it's listed as out of stock but with no price. In the same vein, is this should have a shelf edge label and a price attached to it if it's listed, but if there is no shelf label, then it should be in not listed with no price. So it's again, we would ideally like you to change these in the Rex QC portal to make these lists basically disappear, so that because they are clear errors, these can be modified internally by your teams. I think that's most of the bits we wanted to cover in today's training. Do you have any questions at all? No? Adina, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, actually,
No?
that was pretty much it, I think.
Sorry, I did go through a bit quickly, but hopefully not too quickly. If we're this is recorded, so I'm gonna make sure that this video is available on our Learning Hub. So if you do want to re-reference it, or if you have any questions, you can email us. If you've got any problems accessing Power BI or anything like that, email the PSA inbox and we can sort that side for you as well. But otherwise, thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, Richard.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.